Is there interest in beginning? So, добрый день. Good afternoon. My name is Berel Rodal. I am chairing this session. I'm a member of the board of the Ukrainian Counter Initiative. I see my colleague on the board, Adrian Karpinski here. We're very happy to be the hosts of this day-long meeting, which has been very interesting and gratifying. This session is focused on the basic issue of the relationship between the defense sector and how that relates to society as an economy. In Israel, Israelis managed to build a very robust defense sector and a defense industry at the same time as Israel succeeded in building a very robust and innovative economy. What is the relationship between the two? The relationship between building a robust defense and a robust economy. With special attention, I think, at this session on the issue of how the defense relationship links to innovation in the economy. So we're very privileged to have Yaakov Amídor with us, has the rank of Major General. He's retired, but nobody in Israel really ever retires. There is a special attachment and importance to the number 18 in Hebrew and in Jewish culture. The 18 is defined by the words chai, which means life. So 18 is a special, even magical number, and 36 is double chai. And General Amídor will tell you that what matters most in his life, apart from his grandchildren, is a lifetime, a double chai lifetime of service in Israel's military. He is particularly known as a thinking man of action, and was, for a number of years, Israel's national security advisor, and the person who would basically deal with his opposite numbers in the United States. A very important relationship. But he's thought, taught, and fought on a number of fronts, and we're privileged to have him share his experience and the wisdom gained, and he probably has the scars on his back to show the effort involved in thinking, writing, reflecting in the sector. As commentators, discussants, we have Archil Cínsadze, who is advisor of the Prime Minister and Minister of Defense of Ukraine on issues of defense reform, not a small subject. And a senior fellow from the Potomac Institute, but who lives in Ukraine and is Ukrainian, Dennis Gurak. So, Yaakov, I invite you to begin.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. The story of the relations between innovation and economy and the military sector is very interesting, and it can be a very unique story which might help others to imitate and to learn from, but I don't think that it can be taken as is and be doubled and cut and paste in another place. It's very unique to Israel. The beginning is even before the beginning of Israel. We didn't have any means to fight the war that we had to fight, and we understood we are going to have after the independence, and the beginning of the military industry in Israel is pre the Declaration of Independence of 15th of May. But the real decision was taken very few years afterwards, when an American Jew and Shimon Peres came together to the founder of the State of Israel, Ben-Gurion, and told him, we have to do something, and they begin as a garage somewhere in near Tel Aviv, which what became later on the air industry of Israel is 1,400 employees and an export of $6 billion. It was understood from the beginning that Israel should have a strong arm of military industry to produce what is needed based on our unique needs, something that you cannot buy outside. And very early it was understood as well that in many cases no one will sell us. Because of the sensitivity of the area, the fact that the West, the East was not in the list, it was not in the card. The Czech helped us a lot in '48, ordered by Stalin to help the new state. But immediately after the war, the Eastern Bloc was out of it. We couldn't achieve anything in this side of the world. And in the West, there were many sensitivities because of the relations with the Arabs. And we understood that there are some areas in which, if we don't have the capability to produce by ourselves, no one will sell us. So that was the beginning. And there were two areas. One was more laboratories called Rafael, and the other one was from the beginning producing tool, the air industry. And we began to go on. The truth is that at the first, at least 20 years, or even more, 25 years, most of the products went to the Air Force. The Air Force was more sensitive to technology. The needs were very, very strong. We couldn't compete with the Russian-made anti-air missiles, which appeared in the Middle East towards the end of the 60s. And it was well understood that the Air Force is in a real need for technology to cope with the other side threats. Slowly, mainly after the Yom Kippur War in '73, it was spread. By the way, the little navy that we have was based on Israeli technology, not the boats themselves we bought in France, but all the technology on the decks were Israel made. From the missiles to the anti-missile shields and so on and so forth. And we are still very strong on that issue. We are now selling defense system for the Indian Navy, for example. After '73, we understood that something should be changed. And we decided that it would not be numbers, although we made a bigger army based on compulsory service and very sophisticated reserve system. We have both up till now. Compulsory service in Israel for boys for 3 years, for girls for 2 years. Slowly we become for all of them for 2 years. And as I said, very sophisticated reserve system. In the ground forces, the reserve are the majority. But there is huge reserve forces in the Air Force and little than that in the Navy. We decided to move to another area to continue with the military industry, which became more sophisticated and invested a lot in R&D. But that didn't make the influence on the economy, and it was very good for us, it was very good for the military forces, exported a lot, but it didn't have influence other than the fact that so many people worked in the military industry. After the Yom Kippur War, we decided to make a change. The change is because we understood that the only way to overcome the asymmetry that Israel is facing is by changing something dramatic. What is the issue? Israel is a very little country. It's, within the Green Line, it's 20,000 square kilometers. If you add Judah and Samaria, the West Bank, it's another 6,000. This is Israel. It's like New Jersey, for example. It's like Kuwait without the West Bank. The number of Israelis is also very little. We are only 8.5 million citizens, and what's relevant to the ability to build an army is the 6 million Jews. It's not the almost 2 million Arabs who do not have compulsory service. And we understood that we doomed to live in this asymmetry. We cannot change it. Even all the Jews around the world will come to Israel. Okay, instead of 6 million, we will be 15 million. But it will not change the ratio between us and our neighbors. The Arab countries are more than 350 million people. The Egyptian army itself in 73 was more than 800,000 people. In Israel, the whole population of Israel was around 3.5 million. Think about the numbers. We cannot compete with the numbers. So we decided that we will organize our effort to get the qualitative edge in another way, on top of the investment that we did in the military industry. And a lot of money went and is going and will go to R&D in the military industry. Because we understood that without it we cannot compete. And we decided to do something unique. Because we have a compulsory service, we can select every year from all those who are at the end of the high school, a group of very, very, very smart people, unique in their capabilities, to make tests towards the end, towards their graduation of the high school, and then to take them to focus on areas that we think are very important. We are doing the same with pilots, with Navy commanders, and today we are doing it with graduates who we understand, based on the test that we are doing, will be very good in technology, and another group which will be very good in cyber, and another group which will be very good in intelligence. These are the three areas in which we are making selection. We are bringing them in, to select them. We tell them that they are selected to be an independent, separate group. They are not going through all the channels. They are going to universities for 3 years. Depends what we want them to do in the future. Either it is physics, mathematics, philosophy for people from the intelligence, economists, linguists, Arabic. And then, after 3 years, they serve another 6 years. In these 6 years, we, in the national level, decide where we want them. What is the most critical issue that we are facing, that we want to build there a group of excellence which will focus on solving this problem? And it is our decision. in the national level. There was one place in which they are making all the calculations for all the needs on the system. And the success was fantastic. Wherever you put enough graduates of this project, you see the results. It takes few years. It's 2 young people in the first year, 4 in the second year, 6 in the third year, and then you see the balance change. And a group of very, very smart people sitting together focusing on one issue, I used to say, don't worry, it's a question of time, how, but the problem will be solved. Take 2 years, or 1 year, or 3 years, I don't know, but a solution will be found. That didn't change the economy at all. It was very good for the army. It helps us in many very sensitive areas to be maybe the best in the world, to understand the problem and to find the solutions. But it was within, inside the military systems. It was mainly, most of them at the beginning went to R&D. Now we understand that we have another problem called cyber and another problem, challenge called intelligence. And these are the 3 areas in which you can find most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. After 6 years, 50% of them went out. They finished their obligation and they went out. And after a few years, you could see the consequences in the industry, in the civilian industry. Genius people with a lot of experience, 6 years in the army, which made fantastic job inside the military system, with a lot of responsibility, went out with fantastic ideas. And in many cases, they called their friends from the unit. Call them, hey, Joe, I have an idea. What do you think that we will think about it together? And then they became the founders of a wave which grew up slowly but surely, because every year, some of them are going out of the army. With a lot of experience. And if someone stayed in the army another 3 years, he came out with more experience and more responsibility and more understanding of how to run the business. The phenomenon in Israel of this, the basis for the startup nation ecosystem, is these people who came out after being trained before the army, got a lot of experience in the army, and went out, and now it's a question of ideas. And because they are so smart, and they learn how to solve problems, when they see problems, they ask themselves, okay, what is the solution? You know, it's like looking at the half-full glass. These people see only the empty half. The full half doesn't bother them. They ask themselves, okay, it's half full.
Always full.
How?
Half water, half air.
Yes.
Always full.
Yes, they are looking only at the air. How to fill it with something which is not air, to be precise. How to fill it. And they are focusing, because of their training, on solutions. And because they are very smart, the solutions are very smart. And if you look today at the ecosystem which was built in Israel, is in many cases friends from the army who combine together. They are looking for people who have an experience other than them. For example, a friend of mine became very, very rich. He's not one of these smart guys. He doesn't know anything about technology. He's fantastic in money. And they called him at the beginning and say, Naftali, we need someone who will monitor the money issue because we are getting money and we have to spend money and we want to make money at the end. And we know a lot about technology. We are very smart in finding solutions to the problems that we want to solve. We don't know how to handle money. And he said, okay, I'm ready to help you. And he became one of the founders, a company which was sold later on in Britain with $1 billion pound. And he became very rich, not being one of these smart kids, but being the old responsible and money guy of the company. So the hardcore are members from units. But at the end, it's a whole industry which grew up around this hardcore of smart people. As I said, some of them came from the R&D, some of them came from the Air Force pilots, some of them came from the intelligence, and today more and more are coming from the cyber side of our life. These words that I even don't understand. The words I don't understand, not the technology. And that was the hardcore, and around it, you can see in Israel, many ex-soldiers, officers were coming out of the army and saying, if they can, we can do the same. We hadn't been selected when we were 18 years old, but we spent a few years and we became company commanders and battalion commanders, and we know how to solve problems. This is our profession. So if this is our profession, let's go and work in it. People are coming from the intelligence saying, metadata. Metadata is something that we work with all the time. Big data is our bread and butter. So let's go out and see what can be done with big data. And so on and so forth. In every area, you can see now young people in Israel coming out of the army, a lot of experience, a lot of responsibility in the army. It's compulsory service. The army is very, very young, very, very young. And that going out after 3 or 6 years, if they were part of this group after 6 years, if they were, well, the truth is after 9 years, because 3 years they spend in university and then 6 years in the army, they are coming out, 27 years old, with a lot of experience, and now the race begins. If you look at Israel, this is the source of our, what people call the startup nation. There is something unique in the Israeli culture which gave it the ability to grow up. A few years ago, someone came from London, we worked on some business in energy, and he told me, I met the Prime Minister, it was Prime Minister Brown. He read Startup Nation, the book, and he wanted to duplicate it in Britain. He said, Jim, look, I'll tell you what is the problem by a story. You know what are the two excuses of an Israeli entrepreneur who got $50 million and at the end it didn't work? And now we have a meeting with the investors, and you have to justify the fact that he lost $50 million. It's not easy. In Israel, there are, this young guy will give two excuses to legitimize the fact that he lost $50 million. One will be, nice investor, you did marvelously. The truth is that we are very successful. We need another $10 million and it will work. The second way to explain it is even more interesting. Investors, you did the right decision when you gave me the money. The problem is in the market. The market is not mature enough. They don't understand what they need, what they need. And we are providing something that they, the market, doesn't understand that there is a need for that. So you are okay, the market is made a mistake, and you lost $50 million. I told him, Jim, that the minute that in London they will be ready to accept these two, to call it excuses, if they see it as a legitimate explanation for why and how you lose $50 million, then you can do what we do in Israel. I think that you have to find something else in it. Because I know your culture, I spent many days in London, I know you, it will not fit your investors. It fits Israeli investors. Or even American investors who are investing in Israel, and they know the Israeli issue. It will not work in by the way, they made totally another system. They made kind of a greenhouse for new innovation in Cambridge, and it's very successful, and it fits their tradition and culture. Ours is different. And you cannot understand how these wise kids succeeding in Israel to bring more and more and more money to their dreams and ideas without understanding the ecosystem, the culture environment in Israel, which allows people to give money and then to buy the excuse of give me another 5-10% and it works, or you are okay, the market is okay. And when you have all of that together, this is the soup in which Israeli startup nation is grown. For sure, the government is very, very important at the beginning. At the beginning, Israel government made a fund called, if I'm not mistaken, and the fund founded some startups at the beginning. And only after the success of some of these startups, then the momentum continued. I can tell you 7 years ago, the Prime Minister understood, doesn't matter how, that cyber is going to be an issue. And he called one of my friends, he's also a general, was the head of our R&D system in the army, I wrote a recommendation how to deal with it. And he gave a plan, which includes both the security side, the civilian side, the academia, and the industry. And the question then was how to build it in the government system, within the government system. And we met a few friends and we decided that one guy that we knew, again, from our experience in the army, was under my command. He is the best to make it, we called him. He was one of the wise kids, made his PhD later on, made an exit and some money. And he said he will know how to deal with the bureaucracy of the government, and he is smart enough to build what was described by Itzik. And 6 years after he was nominated, he left the government, and we have a cyber security system, both in the government, maybe the most advanced in the world, in the academia, at least in 2 centers. One is in Be'er Sheva University. The decision was that it will be in the periphery, not in Tel Aviv, but in the south, in Be'er Sheva. We are moving now the communication core of the army and the intelligence into Be'er Sheva vicinity, so that will be kind of a center of gravity relating to cyber. And when I left the job towards the end of 2013, I asked Yaakov, how many startups that you know in cybersecurity exist in Israel? And he told me probably 250. And he added immediately, if we know about 250, it means that we have at least 500. Because half of them we don't know about. And this is a result of a momentum which began with the decision of the government, the decision which had been taken through the 6 years, how to improve and to encourage, and so on and so forth. I think that there is no even one big American company dealing with cyber, which does not have a center of R&D in Israel, and at least one big Russian company, and so on and so forth. So cyber is something that we feel we did what the government should do. They have to continue to build the capabilities in the government, but what the government should do to begin the momentum. And now the Prime Minister nominated the old friend Itzik and the one who left the cyber agency to think together what will be the next area in which Israel, the government, will invest to build the momentum in another area. It might be, or maybe it will be about quantum machinery or something. We don't know. And they people, and they ask, it is so important to understand that the beginning should be encouraged by the government, and then the government should go out of the system and to let the open society and the competition to do the job and to bring the new ideas into the market. For the beginning, you need the government. So if you look at it, what Israel experience is, first is the experience of those who did it in the army. And in the army, it was done in the army because necessity is the mother and the father of innovation. There was a huge necessity to survive. So this is one. Second is encouraging at the beginning by the government. And third, to let the competition to lead at the end. Yes, it's a very good time to ask questions.
I'm sorry, I'm not hogging the microphone, but I do have a question as follows. What you described was a system that was made necessary by military requirements. So bright young men and women were recruited, they were funded, they were organized, and eventually they flew the coop. What you're describing now looks to me like a system of nurturing innovation that is not inspired by military requirements, but by the need to move innovation along the track from sector to sector. Is that right? Is this new search for a new area a reflection of a military need or a government policy to nurture innovation rather than innovation that serves military needs? Question.
Cyber is a good example. It was understood from the beginning that the main issue is to defend Israel from, which is very vulnerable because we are a very sophisticated state with a lot of dependence on cyber. So to invest in academy is leading to other consequences, but the reason, the hard core of the reason to invest in cyber was defense. The decisions in the future will be related strongly to the identifying what is needed for Israel to keep the qualitative edge in the future. It will not be based on what is the best for the economy. It will be what is best for the security. We believe that at the end of the day, it's combined. This is our experience in all areas. In the startup nation, we didn't think about the market at all. The whole idea was how to enhance our capabilities within the military system. And then it spread to other agencies in Israel and, of course, to the civilian market. But the decision of the government will be done where to invest based on the defense needs. The minute that it will begin to go into the civilian side, then money from the government is needed only to begin the momentum in the market. But this is not the first decision is based on the need of the defense. So there are two crucial points in which you need the government. First is what is important for the defense, and then to invest there. And second, when you identify an area in which you begin you see a beginning of momentum. It's happened in Israel with Clinton. We understood that we have some benefits not connected to the army at all. We have some benefits, some of the people who did it came from the army, but it's not connected to what they did in the army. Don't deal with connected to the army. I don't have enough time. But when it begins, the government push in some areas with some governmental money, but then totally left it for the competition.
So, in the role of discussants, anybody want to jump in and go first? We have, I think I've introduced you already, so please jump in with whatever enthusiasm you can muster. There's quite a lot of meat here.
Thank you so much, Dennis, if you don't mind. I will proceed, and then as a discussant, I guess I need to provoke the conversation and continue on some experience which you gained in Israel, and then somehow try to use it for the Ukrainian reform processes. And I want one more time to remind you that I'm an advisor on the defense reform issues. For me, it was quite clear from your story here that the neighborhood, the geopolitics matter. And that's why there comes to decisions on how to build a strong government to defend the nation. Then we jumped through the various reform issues, the various changes, and we basically never mentioned anything about what was the basement for it, what was the startup point, where did you start that, and you move to the technical issues, which yeah, it is interesting, but if you cast a glance on the legacy we have here and the legacy we had in Georgia, because my previous experience on the defense reform issues was in Georgia, and in the beginning when we decided to reform the Georgian army, we did the same as you mentioned, sir, and we paid attention to our neighborhood, and the geopolitics also mattered for Georgians, and we understood that, well, we're not a big nation, and that's why we need to be more technical oriented and not the numbers, as you mentioned again. And that's why we decided to build the army, and the whole core, the essence of the reform process was not to build a huge army, but to build about 20,000, not more, but well-trained, well-equipped, and so on and so far, a professional army. Well, this is not the case here in Ukraine, because we still have the Soviet legacy, in which we understand that in the Soviet Union, technical issues, well, they did matter, but not as much as the numbers would say. And numbers, they always overwhelmed everything here, and that they believe, for example, that if you build up the 1 billion or 1 million strong army, you can throw the people on the battlefield and cover the battlefield with their bodies, and then the victory comes in. My first belief and my first attitude here was that the old Soviet generals, they had the same understanding, and that the people never met. And that's why when the first question from my side was to them, asking what kind of assistance you need, the response was, well, we have enough people here, enough population, we are 40 million, maybe more, and we need technical assistance. Well, for me, it is a little bit hard to define how to move from this mentality, and what was for you. It is a question again towards you and to you. What was for you the main aspect? Again, we spoke about the technical things, but they never come without the money. We understand that the money which is provided here for the defense issues is 1/10 part of the Israeli army is using. So you have each soldier 10 times better prepared than any Ukrainian. and then the numbers are almost equal. 8 million Israelis are defended with 175,000 soldiers and officers, and 40 million nations defended with the same number of ill-equipped, maybe a little bit more experienced now because of the warfare issues. But again, where does this money come from? Where this potential in Israel, and how can we use how to earn this money to make this technical, and then when people matter, things better?
It's very important, interesting question, I must say. If you go to the history of Israel, you see that there were years during which we spent 19% of our GNP. Remember the number, 19% of our GNP on defense. Today, by the way, it's around 5% of the GNP. 6.2, if you add some, it's in the budget of the defense, but it's not the difference. For example, my pension is in but between 5 and 6%. It's huge, but it's much, much less than the 19% that we had in the 60s and 70s. The issue is that from the beginning it was understood that we don't have any other choice because Israel will not have a second chance. We cannot lose even once, and because Israel is very little, you cannot lose any better. When the border is 12 kilometers from the Mediterranean, that was the case before the 6-day war, you know that the whole space that you have to maneuver is 12 kilometers, not more than that. The center of gravity of Israel is 40 by 20 kilometers, that's all, around Tel Aviv. There are some enclaves in Jerusalem, in Beersheba, in Haifa, but the center of gravity of Israel is very, very little. You cannot have a war nearby. So you have to push immediately to the other side the first day of the war. So the clear understanding, and of course after the Holocaust it was even more brighter to the founders of Israel. Because Israel cannot be in a situation in which we cannot defend ourselves. So if the need is to take 20% of our GNP to defense, we did it. In the first 5 years of Israel, we lived in a special regime in which we got very few bread, milk, and meat, which was allocated by the government, because the money was needed to build our ability to defend ourselves. Think about it, independent state, after war of independence, after the Holocaust, and you cannot buy in the free market meat, bread, and meat. Everything was allocated by the government, by grants. They don't know the war before. Because it was understood that, and I think Israel from the beginning is compulsory service. Each of the young people in the Jewish community is going for 3 years to the army. If you want to be an officer, you have to add another year and a half. So the best people serving at least 4 years. So if you ask where we took the money from, it was clear at the beginning that we are allocating a lot of money to defense and the people will pay. Less jobs, less meat, less food, everything less. But it was a very honest system without corruption, led by idealistic leadership. It was understood it's doing whatever it can to lead Israel to the future and not taking money to their own pockets. We got a lot of money at the beginning from the Israeli Jewry around the world, mainly from the Jews in the United States of America. A lot of economic help at the beginning. And since the 70s, we are getting from the Americans billions of dollars, but that can be spent only in America to buy American weapon systems. But it's helping us a lot. The F-15 and F-35 of Israel was paid by the Americans. So it's very helpful for us. Today, with GNP of $300 billion, it's not so significant. Percentage-wise, it's very little. But psychologically, it's very important because this is the symbol of the fact that the United States of America is standing behind Israel. So even if economically everyone will show you that we don't need it, 2% or 1.5% of our GNP that can be subsidized by the Israeli economy, internationally and symbolically it's very important because this is the symbol of the fact that Israel is going, is that America, the United States of America is going hand in hand with the state of Israel. But the decision at the beginning was very clear. We are ready to allocate a lot of money from our GNP, high percentage. I don't know if there are so many countries who are ready to give to their defense 20%. It's very, 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 very rare. Even today, what we are, the United States of America, today is less than 4%. It's 3 and something. In Europe, averagely, it's less than 2%. And in Israel, it's more than 5%. Think about the readiness to, and the decision to make this selection and to pick the brightest was made after the shock of the crisis of 73. We understood that big is not enough. We need to do something which will change the cohesion in the area of quantitative edge, not only in numbers. We continue with the compulsory service. We continue with the reserve. The Israeli army is big relating to, of course, everything is parallel to what the citizens that we have. A number of Israelis who are ready to, who are defined as those who should go to government. It's only Jews. The Israeli army, the IDF, built on 6 million Jews. This is the number. These are the numbers. So it was understood after the crisis of 73 that we have to change something dramatically. It's not enough to recruit more people or to bring to the battlefield more divisions. There should be much more sophisticated system. And today, because of the cyber, we are coming to the situation in which the problem is not money. The problem is numbers. We don't have enough good people to produce the capabilities that we need, because the cyber is a beast. You know, to fulfill it with so many people to be in the right place. So interestingly enough, because of strong economy, money is not a problem today. It's these smart guys, and guys I mean men and women, that we are bringing into the life.
Does it work? Thanks. I was listening to your speech really closely, attentively, because for me, all of what you experienced, you brought all your experience for these decades, yeah. But in our case, all of what happened with Israel, basically for decades, happened with Ukraine for 4 years, except one thing that we didn't invent how to counter it. So historically, no doubt that there is similarity, especially in terms of talent and in terms of capabilities and in terms of the desire of the nation, yeah, to counter the aggression. What is lacking, to my opinion, in our case, is the case of strategy and of existing of a good strategy and of political will. Yeah? So unfortunately, well, although I'm quite a big optimist, politically probably there will still be really, this situation what we have now, not going anywhere basically, will continue for still some time if Ukrainian society does not realize, we just spoke with Archil, that that's basically the last chance that we have. If we don't do dramatic changes, 1-2 years, there will be no country, unfortunately. But I don't want to make this political, but just, to explain my feelings, because for the last 4 years I was working as a deputy CEO of Ukrainian Defense Industry Holding, responsible for international cooperation and also partially for innovations as well. So I understand the system perfectly, studied the Israeli case, the US case of DARPA, promoted a lot of startups in Ukraine. So just the question what I wanted to ask you, how did you basically, how did you, you said that there was no corruption in the system. Yeah? So that's one question, why it was possible, because obviously the ruling class back then in Israel was the same. Basically, you could compare it with the ruling class now in Ukraine. Basically, it's not a question of age, it's a question of mentality, old school and new school. Yeah, like there is in Ukraine, people who want changes and people who don't want changes. So those people who don't want changes, they don't basically, the fact that there is war doesn't affect them. Yeah, so you said that there was no case of corruption. I agree with you, but today corruption is killing the military, that's obvious. Again, it's not a political statement or anything, it's just a question, how do you change mentality? Because, well, for Ukraine, to which opinion I came in my thoughts is that our main problem is this mentality gap or mentality problem. For some reason, Ukrainians are very united when there's crisis. Case of Maidan last, other cases, like there is no other army which stopped the war with volunteers. The nation stopped the war with volunteers. Yeah, so it's extreme unification, an extreme way, extreme case for seeing this. But for some reason, we cannot unite when the crisis is ongoing. We're getting used to it. And I think that's the question which our society needs to answer in case we want to basically replicate the Israeli case. Thanks.
I don't know enough about the Ukrainian society to give you any advice.
No,
I can tell you from our history, there were corrupt people. In every human society, there are corrupted people. You cannot change the character of people. What was strong from the beginning of Israel is law and order system. From the beginning, the son of Ben-Gurion was brought to court on corruption. I mean, it's like, I don't know, I cannot imagine, I cannot give you an example from Ukraine, but I don't know about the system. But this is something which is, in other places, was unbelievable. The son of the founder of Israel. At the end, it was almost nothing, but it was still from the beginning. The police is very strong, and the legal system is independent enough. It will be a need. Everyone will be taken into the court. And today, Prime Minister was elected by President, Minister of Finance, Minister of Interior. I mean, we had, and we have probably, corrupted people, because this is human being society, and human being societies have corrupted people within it. The question is not if there are corrupted people. That for sure the answer is yes. The question is how strong is the police and the legal system to bring them into the court, and how the court is independent enough to send them to jail. And this is something that we were lucky enough we had from day one. From day one. It's interesting why I think that the main reason is that Israel was led by very idealistic people at the first stage. The first stage was very long. Those people who fought against came from the Holocaust or were in Israel during the Holocaust and fought against the British, and then were the founders of the state, both in opposition and in the government. And it was clear that I think that no one of them went to heaven with a lot of money in Israel. And the heritage for their next generation was very, very distant. None of them became rich during his term in the government. And when Rabin was caught with $3,000, something like that, in America, which was not allowed by the law then, in Israel, you couldn't have an account in America, he resigned immediately. Less than 24 hours, he was out of the government. And Rabin was one of the founders. So I think that if you speak about corruption, again, I don't say anything that, because I don't know anything about the Ukrainian society. Corrupted people exist everywhere. The question is not change the character of people. It's impossible. The question is how you build a legal system and a police which is strong and independent enough to bring them.
If I may comment, and I'm happy to open the floor to questions, comments, but what you describe, Yaakov, is 2 or 3 factors. One, necessity. The need, absolute need to do what was done. 2, the importance of community, the confidence of the country that the sacrifices were not in vain and they were shared. So public confidence is important, determination, and then there's capacity. Israel is extraordinary in that, for example, the F-35, the only country of the countries now flying the F-35, the only country in which electronics are not American, but built in the flying country, in this case Israel, is the Israelis, who also manufacture the pilot specialized helmet, only country that does this. So it's still there are elements of mystery in how Israel, a small country, is able to manage these things. But the story which you shared with us of the system of identifying talent from a very early stage and leveraging, nurturing that talent, which then in turn has its spin-off effects of the program. All that is an important detail. But the base, I think you're telling us, is that it begins with necessity, absolute determination, and public confidence.
And readiness, at least in some stages, to sacrifice what is needed to defend the state. In the War of Independence, Israel lost 1% of all its Jewish people. 1% of build another war machine in Syria. They build one in Lebanon called Hezbollah. We don't want them to build another war machine in Syria, and for that we are ready to take risks. We have technically a deflection line. A line in which we are not coordinating, not at all. We prevent mistakes. If our Air Force is somewhere and the Russians are flying nearby, we say, guys, it's ours. And we agree who will retreat. But we don't coordinate with them. We don't want them to give us permissions, and they don't want to be part of giving us permissions. We don't want to take side in this war between us and the Iranians. And for us, it's good enough.
We have a hard stop in 4 minutes, so I'm sorry, Igor. No time for other questions, only for a very quick response to the question. We have to leave it by 5:30.
Thanks. Відповім українською. Спробую втиснути в ці 4 хвилини. Безперечно, шанс є, і він завжди існував. Витіснити Росію з міжнародних ринків озброєння. Ми повинні цим займатися як найвищим державним пріоритетом. Чому? Тому що завжди у Росії два способи геополітичного впливу. Експорт нафти і експорт зброї. Завжди було. Припинення цього експорту є інтересом НАТО і Сполучених Штатів. Безпосередньо вже абсолютно очевидно. Нероблення того, щоб включитися в процес забезпечення цього інтересу, було б нелогічним. Офіційно на державному рівні розробляються документи, ведеться робота. Однак я переконаний, що ведеться недостатньо швидко. І це повинно стати реально суспільним пріоритетом. Тому що як тільки ми це почнемо робити, сюди прийдуть інвестиції, сюди прийдуть стратегічні інвестори в вигляді західних оборонних компаній, як тільки вони сюди прийдуть, це початок виграшу війни. Все дуже просто. Ми отримаємо той рівень підтримки, який дозволить в короткий проміжок часу вступити в НАТО. І це буде не лише політичне рішення, а ще й економічне. Тому що ми зможемо включитися в ланцюжки постачання НАТО, давати їм додану вартість через свої можливості виробничі і R&D, що в принципі теж абсолютно очевидно. І таким чином стати дійсно повноправним стратегічним партнером. А ми НАТО потрібні. У нас величезна армія, 200 і більше тисяч людей, яка має надзвичайний бойовий досвід і яка допоможе створити баланс сил в Східній Європі, що сама Польща поки що навіть з допомогою Штатів не здатна зробити, і Балтійські країни. Ми могли в це стратегічно включитись. Тому, сподіваюся, на ваше запитання відповів. Документи є, вони робляться як закони, так і урядові рішення. Однак потрібно швидше, тому що ми дійсно втратили вже дуже багато часу.
Let me conclude by thanking our panelists. Thank you, Yaakov Amídor, for coming all this way and be with us, sharing your experience and wisdom. Thank you all audience for being such a good audience and asking such good questions. We must run. Victory when called upon.